Yeah, well, Anthony Kimani started playing football in Korogocho. That is many, many years ago. That is where I started my footballing career. And then I moved to Kariobangi. Started playing in the Marisa Under-12 tournament in Babadogo, where I played against the likes of Colin Sokot, Gattuso, Nzomo, Koki, and a lot of other players. So basically, that's how I started playing competitive football, because that was the first competition of my footballing career. I got lucky and I went to the biggest youth tournament in the world. That's the Norway Cup. And I think it's at that particular moment that I realized that I could get a lot more, from football. So from that point, henceforth, my attitude towards football changed. I knew that it was something that could change my life. Got back, continued with my training, and at some point, the Madare Youth team was formed. I was also fortunate to be a part of that particular team, and it was a very, very good team. I had the likes of Arnold Origi, Bebeto, the late Fupi, Lefty, Joseph Nyaga, and a lot of other players. So I played for about 2 seasons for Madare Youth, and then again, I was fortunate to be among the few players that were promoted from Madare Youth to the Madare United senior team under the stewardship of Francis Kimanzi. And from that point henceforth, my focus changed. I now wanted to play for the national team because any youth that grows, within the surroundings of Korogocho, Kariobangi, Madare, and those sort of areas always looks forward to playing for Madare United, and I was not an exception. Once I had achieved that particular dream, again I had to refocus. I needed something else, something bigger, and that was the national team. And again, fortunately, I got an opportunity to play for the national team from 2008 up until 2012. Going back to my club career, it got to a point where I felt that I had overstayed my welcome at Madare United. I needed a new challenge. I needed something that was going to challenge me more. I decided that I needed to switch clubs in order for my football to grow. And so AFC Leopards came calling. I didn't think twice about that opportunity, joined AFC Leopards. And that is where I played until I decided to hang my boots after picking an anterior cruciate ligament injury.
Going back to the early days, you seem to be very organized coach. Even in your personal life, you're very eloquent. But it's very unlike for Kenyan players to be very eloquent and organized as you are. Your education, can you give us a brief history on your education? Did you study up to the university level, or where did you get your eloquence from, having grown in the slums?
Well, thank you very much for the compliment. I'm not sure. I can't really pinpoint one area and say that this is where I probably got my eloquence from. But I started my education at Korogocho Primary School. That's where I did my KCPE examinations. From Korogocho Primary School, I joined Our Lady of Fatima Secondary School. That is just a stone throw away distance from Korogocho. So on the other side, it's in Kariobangi, but quite close to Korogocho Primary School as well. And then after Korogocho Primary School, I got an opportunity to do a web design course that was organized by Maisa in a college called Nairobi. There were a few. Yeah, Nairobi. Yeah, so we are the founding members. Yeah, exactly. We are the founding members of Nairobi. It used to be in Westlands when we first started, but it has now relocated to the Go Down Art Center. So that's basically my education journey.
So basically, you are a web design expert apart from your coaching career.
I would need a refresher course to call myself a web design expert. It's been a long time ago. It's more than 20 years ago.
Okay. What about coaching? Did you study for any papers, or it was just a coincidence that you became a coach?
No, I have done a few courses. I've done a lot of MAISA courses actually. I've done the Federation Basic and Advanced Level Coaching, the FKF Basic and Advanced Level Coaching. I've also done the KNVB Basic and Advanced Level Coaching, and I've done CAFC license as well.
Okay.
And besides that, I've also trained as a personal trainer with the American Council of Exercise. I've also done a course in nutrition, so I've got a certificate in nutrition, exercise and nutrition as well. So yeah, that's basically it.
Before tuendele sana, you've mentioned about Korogocho Primary School, and kuna besti yangu fulani anaitwa Laban Kuria, si mwita Kusha Malabo. Yeah, so ameniambia nikuulize swali paka nikashangaa, niambia kama nakumbuka ile time alikuwa anakuleta South B kucheza bola, and I was like, I grew up in South B, sije na msee alikuwa kuja kucheza, so I had to ringing up, unajua kwa Canada sasa, so nikamuuliza akaniambia alikuwa nakutoa Korogocho na kuja kucheza ball South B. Then back then, were you doing it just for fun, ama you had already set it up in your mind that you wanted to become a professional footballer? And why come all the way from Korogocho to play football in South B? Yet unajua kila mtu anacheza ball, maisha anasemanga hata makocha na sisi tunaongea vibaya. Ni kama maisha inakuanga test ya kama unaweza cheza ball top level Kenya. Why were you doing why were you doing it back then, coming all the way from Korogocho to South B? Or was it just for friendship, just for fun? Or you wanted to take your game to the next level?
I certainly wanted to take my game to the next level. We didn't have that many opportunities, to showcase our talents, while growing up. And so you can imagine somebody taking you from Korogocho to South B to play football. So that was a really good exposure for me. Well, and I think it's one of the moments that shaped my career as a footballer. The fact that somebody could see that I had something to offer to a totally different competition in a totally different area, because what that communicated to me was that I'm good enough to play among a team that resides in South B, meaning that there are players in that team that are not as good as me. So I think that also helped me to believe in myself more, believe in my abilities more. So thank you very much, Mr. Coach. Looking back, I think those are some of the moments that really made me who I am today. Because while growing up, there are times when you're not really sure whether you're good enough. You're not really sure whether you're going to fit in a different setup from the one that you're used to. So going all the way to South B and getting to play with totally, strangers, and having the strangers accepting me and accepting my ability and my talent, I think that played a big role in making me who I am today. So thank you, Coach.
Well, najua anakuwatch sasa, anafurahi sana ukisema vitu kaa hizo.
Ni kama brother, tumesoma naye shule moja, tumesoma naye Korogocho.
Yeah, so actually, he's my good friend. I never knew he went to Korogocho Primary. I'll have to ask him why he was going all the way to Korogocho from B to study. Anyway, that's beside what we are here for. Now going back to your early Mathare days, you had one of the best teams, won the league in 2008, I believe. But that team, I always ask people, kulikuwa na some incidences where of course you had very good players, but wengine walipotelea too, some others went into crime. Who are some of the best players that you remember that never made it to the top with football, yet they were very talented?
Well, I can't really recall any player that never got to play at the top level, but I know that there are some who had the potential to do so. I know that there are some who had the ability to play for our national team, but they never quite got to get there. So I think the late Kilonzo, who's known as Fupi by many football fans who had an opportunity to watch him. I think that's one player who would have done great, not just for Mathare United, but for our country as well. And he also had the ability to play in the top leagues in Europe. I remember there's a time that he had an opportunity to go for trials in Holland. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I think he had everything that it takes to play in the major leagues in Europe. I think Alfred Chege is one of the best.
Everyone mentions him. Everyone mentions him. Even the coaches, when they're naming their
so good.
best 11. What was so special about him?
A very, very composed defender. A defender who had amazing ball handling skills, and that's something that you don't get to see from lots of defenders. A lot of defenders are not very, very comfortable with the ball, at their feet. But he was very, very comfortable. He knew the right moments to overlap, and his deliveries from the flanks was just spectacular to watch. So I think that is one player who probably ought to have played for our national team, but he never got to play for our national team. Another player that I think also had everything that it takes to play in the major leagues, but never quite got to get there is Jamal Mohammed. I know he had a professional stint in Sweden and in a few other countries, but I think Jamal Mohammed had the talent to play, in any of the 4 or 5 top leagues in Europe. The EPL, La Liga. I think he really, really ought to have played in one of any of those leagues. Going by what I saw in the few years that I managed to play alongside him.
Well, basically, you've been a player first from the youth level. You're now a coach of the top team. For those players that you've mentioned that you think were really talented, and I agree with you, Jamal he was a special talent. Alfie was also, I got to see only a few matches, but I was really young back then. As a coach, what do you think, I want to phrase this in the best possible way, what was in his quote.
Okay.
What do you think is the problem with Kenyan football, that at the youth level we have some very exciting players, but only few get to make it to the top, and those that make it to the top, of course, it doesn't mean that they were really talented than the others, but why the disparity? Why does it? Why does it? Why is it that most of these young special players never make it to the top? Is it a problem with management? Is it a problem with our system, or it's just the individual mistakes of these particular players, or is it just bad luck?
I think football, just like life, is a game of chances. All right, and looking at the players that we've talked about, and many other players that would have done far much better than they did in their careers, I would say that the peak in their careers did not coincide with an opportunity. So they either got an opportunity way too early before they had reached their peak, or got opportunities after they were way past their peak. And so it's quite a special moment for a player to be at his peak and get an opportunity that is going to open up a lot of other opportunities for him out there. So I think that is probably what has been the undoing, or what has made a lot of our players not to really make that big step in their football careers.
Okay,
but of course there are many other issues, but I think that is the main issue that probably makes some of our players not to join the top leagues.
Okay, you seem to have a very seamless integration from your playing career into coaching. I've also seen the same with some players, just some from Mathare, who have really integrated well into the corporate world after their playing careers at Mathare. Is this something that you guys are prepared for while at Maisa, or what happens really?
Well, I think anybody that has been through Maisa, we will understand that we were very lucky in the sense that we were taught a lot more than just football. Because anybody that was at Maisa or anybody that played for Mathare United was required to have a junior team, and you were supposed to clock 60 hours in community service for you to be able to earn your full pay at the end of the month. We also had a lot of programs going on in Maisa. We had HIV and AIDS sensitization, classes or courses. We had the shoot back program going on, where anybody that was interested in photography or journalism, could go and learn a bit more in that respect. So I think we were taught to be all-round individuals. It wasn't just about football, and I think that is why it has become easy for some of the people or players that have gone through Maisa to transition, into doing other things after football. So I would say that Maisa played a huge role in opening our eyes to many other opportunities that are out there besides football.
Okay. Well, describe the feeling when you won the league title with Mathare. Is it what was going on throughout that season? I don't want to say it was luck, since luck really doesn't count much in football. It's a lot of hard work, and I've been into most training sessions. I know the hard work that goes on behind the closed doors. But really, that was a surprise for many who watched football back then. Were you guys prepared for it, or well, as the season progressed, you thought, actually, I think we can win this?
We were well prepared, and we were very lucky to have played football together for many years. A lot of the players in that particular squad had been together for a long time. I had played together with Joseph Nyaga for over 10 years prior to that crowning moment, and a lot of other players in that particular team. So we were well drilled. We understood each other very well. We were very close, off the pitch as well. We were brothers. We were more, of a family than just a football team. But most importantly, I always wanted to leave a mark at Mathare United, because, as I told you earlier on, anybody that grows around Mathare, Huruma, Korogocho, always wanted to play for Mathare United at that particular time. And the reason why we all wanted to play for Mathare United is because Mathare United had done so well, and it had amazing players. It had achieved a lot of things that we didn't think was possible, back then. So when I joined Mathare United, I knew that I cannot hide myself in the shadow of other people's glory. So I really wanted to do something, and I think that was the same. That was the feeling that was shared amongst all the players that were in that particular team. And lastly, we also had a very good coach. I believe having a set of good players without a good coach, it cannot amount to much. So I think we were also very lucky to have Francis Kimanzi, Salim Ali, and of course a very good management as well. Jecton Obure, Bob Munro, Jack Oguda was our team manager back then. So I think it was a well-oiled campaign. We did not have any reason not to do well. So it was a lot of factors that contributed to us winning the league. That season. It's not just talent that helped us to win. It was a lot more that happened behind the scenes that I think made us become champions in 2008.
I'll ask two technical questions. Not really, just one technical question. You've played against very many good strikers in your career. Who are those two or three?
Sure.
Who are those two or three strikers that you think really gave you a lot of problems? Anytime you knew you are going to face them, you had really to be very prepared. And I've had in very many interviews speaking about the mental part of the game, and as a defender, you have to be very sharp mentally. But really, there are those strikers that really test you to the limit. Who are those? Can you name probably several strikers that really gave you problems, and whenever you knew you were going to face them, you had to really prepare well and be mentally focused throughout the game?
I think there are two. There are two that gave me a torrid time when I was playing, and one is Baraza.
John Baraza.
John Baraza.
Why is it so?
And John Baraza and Alan Wanga. As for John Baraza, it's because he was conspicuously missing in the match. You wouldn't quite notice him as a player. He wasn't doing much, but his positioning was absolutely amazing. I mean, he knew where to position himself at the right moment, and that really, is something that I've never been able to understand up until this moment. Because for a lot of strikers, you'll see them making lots of movement.
Yeah.
They'll try a few tricks here and there. But as for Baraza, he was very, very silent until he struck, and then you couldn't really understand how it happened. So I think he was a very, very intelligent player in terms of his movement, and he was very, very patient as well. John Baraza would move around on the pitch for about 5 to 10 minutes, even without touching the ball. But the moment he touches the ball, he's at the right place. So I would say that's one striker that really gave me a tough time. Alan Wanga was a beast. Another very, very intelligent striker, quite a bully as well, because he's got the physicality as well. So he's another player that you really struggle to to keep in check because he's strong. So if you want to go into the physical battle, he didn't shy away from that, and that's something that a lot of strikers shy away from. The moment
Right.
kicked them a few times, they really also very good scorer. Any opportunity that he came across, he made sure that he made the most out of it. He was very, very composed in front of goal, and again, that's something that you don't get to see with many strikers. So I would say that those two strikers were really top in my playing days.
Well, you've also played with very, very dependable defenders. Who are those probably two centre backs that you think gave you an easy time whenever you were partnered with either at Mathare or the national team?
Edgo Chieng. Fighter.
Yes,
Fighter,
I'll have
and then George Weiss.
Okay.
Sorry?
You can continue. I'll have to move since, as you can see, there are people who are shooting something.
Okay, so Fighter and Weiss, I think were the best centre backs that I ever, played alongside. They had all the attributes that you'd want in a proper centre back. They were very.
Nakusikia? Nilikuwa nimepotea kiasi.
Yes, lakini nakuona sasa.
Some people were shooting something and
no problem.
I knew there would be some noise, so I had to move.
No worries.
Okay. So you say Alan Wanga was that's the point that
he was a beast.
What other attributes do you think made him a top striker?
I think he's also a player that worked very, very hard. Individually, he was a very focused individual. He still is a focused individual. He knew what he wanted to get from his football career, and the fact that he had also had professional stints abroad, I think that also added a class, to his style of play. So all those factors, I think, made him a very, very good striker. And the national team as well, he also has amassed a lot of caps with our national team. And once you get to play for the national team, there's something that happens to your game. There's something that happens to you as an individual. Your belief goes a notch higher. And I think those are some of the factors that probably made him a very, very good player. And he's still a very good player. Last season, he was a top scorer. This particular season, I think he's got about 7 goals. So it just shows that he still has his magic going on.
Well, you mentioned about the national team, and I have to ask you.
Yes.
You never, well, you played for a few years, but with your quality, do you think you would have played more games? Is there any regrets on your end, especially in regards to playing for the national team?
Well, not at all. I think one thing that people ought to understand about the national team is that there's very little time involved in preparing for matches. So the coaches can only go for the best players at that particular moment. The players, that are enjoying good form at that particular moment. And at times it's difficult to enjoy good form, for the entire season or
Yeah,
for a
sure.
couple of seasons in a row. So I would say that I got call-ups when I deserve to get a call up. So I wouldn't really complain or have any regrets. I think it's a matter of consistency and ensuring that you are at the top of your game. Every time you're called upon to perform for your club, because it's what you do at your club that determines whether you're going to get a call up for the national team. So I think I got what I deserved.
Well, what are some of the memorable games for you, either at Mathare United as a player? I know you had a very short stint at AFC Leopards as a player, but at club level and at the national team level, can you mention at least two memorable games for you and give a reason for the same?
Well, the first one will have to be my first cap against Guinea at the Nyayo Stadium. We were basically Minos coming up against some of the best, players on the continent during that particular period. I remember they had Pascal Feinduno. They had Fode Mansare, and I had the responsibility to ensure that Fode Mansare didn't do anything in that particular match. I was playing as a right back. He was an offensive, left winger in that particular match. So my work was well cut out. I think I did well. He did not do much damage to us. We ended up winning that particular match 2-0. So I'd say that was a memorable, a very, very special occasion in my footballing career. I managed to have an assist in that particular match. I think it was the first goal that Denis Oliech scored. The second match will be, I've got three actually. The second match will be Kenya versus Uganda, 2012, Sekafa in Uganda. I was the captain. We were playing in the finals. It was a proud moment for me to captain my country, in a regional tournament. But then again, something happened in that particular match that I've never been able to forgive myself. But I scored an own goal. I know that that's something that a lot of players, or that happens to a lot of players. But I just wondered why it had to be that moment. It was a tournament that we had struggled to get to the finals. We had a lot of issues off the pitch, but we still managed to grind and get to that particular point. And then it just didn't work out for me in the finals. So scoring an own goal earlier on into the match, you're the captain, you're supposed to uplift everybody's spirits, but you're struggling to uplift your own spirits after scoring an own goal. Later on, we managed to get our footing in that particular match, scored an equalizer. Then again, towards the latter stages of the match, we scored another own goal. Fortunately, not from me this time round. It was Atudo that scored the own goal. So the match ended 2-1, with Kenya scoring all the three goals, but we still lost in the final. So that was the second match. The third one is AFC Leopards versus Gor Mahia Go TV Shield tournament. 2013. That was also a very memorable match in my football career, because that was my last top flight match. I had to take a few injections to play in that particular match. I had a very, very troublesome knee, so I took a few injections, played in that particular match, which turned out to be my last match. Gladly, we ended up winning that match 1-0, courtesy of a goal from Pinches, Peter Pio.
You mentioned about your knee injury, and I have to ask about that. But before that, I have to remind my our viewers that we have very good merchandise courtesy of Mozartbet, and I've asked questions on the page. If you've been keen enough, utaangukia a lot of merchandise. Kuna kofia, kuna jazi, kuna hoodie kama hii, kuna white, kuna black. Umjibu. So coming back to you, umesema you played your last match under injunctions. I know you had an ACL injury. I've had the same injury and I've undergone surgery. I know how hard it is to come back to playing after that. But I have to ask, did you ever go for surgery for the same knee?
Yes, I did. I had to.
You went for surgery, but after that, you've never resumed. You never resumed active playing. Why was it so? Was it advised by the doctors? What really happened?
No, actually, I wasn't advised not to play football again. It's just a decision that I decided to take. I struggled a lot to regain my my fitness. Spent the entire year trying to get myself back on the pitch again, something that I managed to do. But after a lot of soul searching, I decided that maybe my time was up, because I knew deep down that I was never going to be the same player that I was before getting that particular injury. I was playing for one of the best and the biggest clubs in East Africa, or in Africa for that matter, and I did not want to let them down. I did not want to let the fans that had always been behind us down. I did not want to let myself down. I knew that I had built a reputation, being a solid defender. I didn't want to come back for the sake of coming back. And so I made a very, very tough decision, a decision that every footballer struggles to make. It's always very, very difficult for any footballer to call it quits. So in as much as I knew I could still go back to playing if I wanted to, I thought that maybe that wasn't the wise thing for me to do at that particular moment. So I decided to hang my boots and look for other challenges out there and other opportunities out there.
Oh, but even before you became a coach, you ran a very successful business. You sell motor vehicles, spare parts, which is something most players don't venture into directly. Were you prepared for this? Had you, and you've not, if I'm not wrong, you've not played professional football outside the country. How did you manage to do this? And you played football at a time when really it wasn't paying that much. That is before you moved to AFC Leopards, and of course, being a community club, they have their challenges. I'm sure kuna miezi kadhaa pia umeenda bila do, mara unalipwa do nusu, kama ni signing fee unapewa nusu, ingine inakosa kuja ama saa zingine inakuja. How did you manage to successfully venture into business?
Well, after turning 25 or 26 thereabouts, I knew that my chances of playing professional football or playing football abroad were getting smaller and smaller, and it's at that moment that I decided to start looking out for other opportunities out there that I might engage in once I stopped playing football. So I did a lot of research, and I was very, very fortunate to have also a mentor who was doing very, very well in business, who guided me and gave me a lot of advice. And just besides business, I also, started going for a lot of, analysis, gigs in different TV stations, in different radio stations. So I wanted to learn as much as I could on that front as well, because I knew that could potentially be my fallback plan. Once I decided to call it quits in football. I also started going for coaching courses. That's when I started doing my MAISA, basing coaching courses, and then also KNVB, because I knew that at some point I will stop playing football. And looking around, we had a lot of examples that made us really, really scared of what the future had in store for us, as footballers. So I think I tried my best to ensure that I had my hands on a few things that I could probably turn to when I stopped playing football.
Was it a seamless integration from playing into business?
It was, and it's because that it's something that I had prepared for. It's it's a moment that I knew was going to come. So I had started making, a few adjustments that were going to ensure that it becomes a smooth transition. I also made peace with the fact that, my playing days were over. And I think that is also one aspect where we don't get right as footballers. I think a lot of us live in denial. You still, want to cling to the gone days. You still want to cling to fame that is not there anymore. So I think I knew that phase of my life was over. I decided to close it and make peace with that moment, and just go on with life.
Well, now we go into your coaching. Uh, what is your coaching philosophy like? I'm not a technical football expert, but of course, every coach has a philosophy. One, what is your coaching philosophy like? What do you believe in football as a coach? And what are some of the who are some of those coaches that you look up to and you try to emulate?
Well, one thing that is very, very dear to me, or that is very, very important in my coaching philosophy, is that the player has to enjoy the game. That is the essence of football. Is for the player to enjoy it. And if the player cannot enjoy, his game, then you can rest assured that the fans are not going to enjoy football. And there's dozens and dozens of fans who, spend a lot of their money to come and watch, good football. So that is very, very important for me. I always make sure that I encourage my players to go out there and express themselves and enjoy football, right? And I know that they are playing for a very, very big club that comes with a lot of pressure. But I always make sure that I remind them that the pressure is for the coach to deal with. They shouldn't feel or go to the pitch, having any sort of pressure at all. I take responsibility of everything that happens onto the pitch, and I think that gives my players freedom to go out there, express themselves, but of course, making sure that we stick to the objectives that we've set out.
Then who are some of those coaches that you really look up to, or you try to learn from what they do?
Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. I think he's a coach that I really, really admire. And I know there's lots of good coaches out there, but I think he has managed to turn what seemed like an average side, to one of the best sides in Europe right now, in the world at large. If you look closely at Liverpool, you'll realize that they don't really have that much quality, in very, very many departments. Yes, they've got Mo Salah, who's scoring goals and who's a very good player, Sadio Mane and Firmino. But looking quite closely, you see that it's quite an average side. And so for a coach to be able to get or to do what he has done with a side as average as Liverpool, I mean, to win the Champions League, to be in the second consecutive Champions League final, and of course win it, I think that's quite something. I think they stand to win the English Premier League this particular season. So I think he has done a lot of work as a coach. I know Pep Guardiola is also a good coach, but I'm tempted to feel that he has also achieved a lot as a result of the players that he has had an opportunity to work with. When he was at Barcelona, I mean, he had some of the best players in the world. He went to Bayern Munich, the same thing happened. He joined Manchester City. I mean, he was able to buy some of the best players in the world. And so I think that is where the difference comes in when you look at Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp. And that's why I admire, I think, Jurgen Klopp more than Pep.
Definitely. We've also picked some match day dressing from Pep Guardiola. I like how you dress during match days. It's very sharp, very sharp to submit. It's very good to learn in your line of your career. It's very good to learn from those that have already achieved all that. Now, coming back to FC Leopards, you had a big leap from an assistant coach to the head coach. Is this something you had prepared for? And how has the challenge been so far?
Well, I did not see it coming. I didn't expect then head coach Kasambungo to leave abruptly. But I think I was also very fortunate to work under him. I got to learn a lot from him. He always used to tell me that, Anthony, one day you will be at the helm of this club, and I want you to believe in yourself. I want you to believe that you can do a good job, and I'm pretty sure you'll do a good job. So he's a coach who had already started preparing me for for the moment that eventually came around. I think I was also very, very fortunate to have a management that believed in me, because as soon as the coach, even before the coach had left, they called me in and told me what was about to happen, that the coach had decided that he was going to leave, and they were not worried at all. They believed that I had what it takes to ensure that the club moves forward. So I think that belief and support from the management also helped me to settle into the club much easier, much faster. And I was also fortunate to work with a bunch of very, very talented players who are hungry, players who are very, very ambitious, and players who are eager to make a name for themselves. So I think I was very, very fortunate that everything seemed to fall into place. Lastly, again, I was very lucky to be working with some of the best coaches in the country. Tom Juma, he was a very good footballer, great player for our national team, for AFC Leopards, for Gor Mahia, and he's also an absolutely amazing coach. Webo, one of the best goalkeeper trainers that this country has ever had. So I think I was very, very lucky to be surrounded with people who really know their craft and people who mean well for the club.
Well, despite not having coached any other senior club in Kenya, you went in and did a good job at AFC Leopards. From your experience so far, do you think you should have ideally started at a probably a smaller club and then make the scale up to probably AFC Leopards or any other big club? Are you loving the experience so far? What are some of the challenges you faced? Just take us through your journey at FC.
I'm loving the experience, and I think every time that you get an opportunity in life is the right time. So I wouldn't say that wasn't the right time. I wouldn't wish that things happened any other way. And again, I think I was very fortunate to have played for AFC Leopards, before becoming, AFC Leopards head coach. So I understood everything that AFC Leopards is all about. I know the demands at AFC Leopards. I know how demanding the fans can be, and rightfully so. And so I think my work was made easier with the fact that I knew, everything that I was supposed to do. I knew my responsibilities. I knew the pressure that comes with sitting at that, coaching seat at AFC Leopards. And I was prepared for the moment as well. I think I was brave enough to take the opportunity. They say that fortune favors the brave. So and it was also a good opportunity for me, and I thank God every day for giving me that opportunity. FC Leopards is a big club in Africa, and so hopefully, if we keep on working the same way we've been working, if we keep on pulling in the same directions, I'm pretty sure we are going to do well for our club, FC Leopards.
I asked you about the challenges, and I know for
challenges. Well, I have not encountered that many challenges. I'd say the one glaring challenge that has been there this particular season, and it has been around, I think, if you look at all the Kenyan Premier League sides, or a lot of the Kenyan Premier League sides, they've been going through the same challenge. It has been the financial, challenge. There are times that we really, really struggled, or the entire team struggled, because of the financial constraints that we were facing. And as a coach, it becomes very, very difficult for you to motivate your players. It also forces you to adjust your training methods from time to time. You have to really read the mood of your players, see what really suits their mood. So at times you have to push your program aside and just do something that is going to uplift their spirit. So I think that was, or has been the biggest challenge that I've faced this particular season.
Well, that's understandable. Now, as a coach at FC Leopards, you've been there now for almost one season. What are your targets? What do you, once the league resumes, what, from the top of your head, what do you want to achieve with the club?
First of all, I think my main task was to ensure that the club regains the respect that it deserves. As I've been saying time and again, ever since we started this show, is that FC Leopards is one of the biggest, clubs in Africa. But if you look at how the team has been performing, in the last couple of years, then you'd wonder why it's still being referred as a very big club. It's because of the history that it has. It has a very rich history. It's a club that used to do well, but at some point, things started going or spiraling in the wrong direction. So my first target was to try and steady the ship, to try and make sure that the team becomes competitive, that the team gives a good account of itself every time it gets an opportunity to play with any of the clubs out there. So that was my primary role, to ensure that we stabilize the team, and of course in the new season, we are looking to do very, very well. We are looking to do what we've not been able to do, in the last 20 years or so. We are looking to get our hands, in the Kenyan Premier League. And so hopefully everything is going to work as we would like it to work, according to, the plans that we are trying to lay down. And hopefully FC Leopards can reclaim its rightful place, not just in Kenyan football, but in African football at large.
Well, speaking of reclaiming, FC Leopards reclaiming their rightful place, Gor Mahia has been dominating the local league for a while now, and I was there at Kasarani when you lost, and you seemed to be very emotional. What does it feel like to lose a derby? You've played in a derby as a player, then you've coached FC Leopards in a derby, and I saw you were very emotional that day after losing that game, despite the fact that FC Leopards had a very good run prior to the game, and you are very emotional despite that, the fact that you are trying to put up face and encourage the players. How does it feel like to lose in a derby? And do you think FC Leopards is going to win a derby in the next few years? Of course, it's been a while, and I don't want the fans to crucify me, but it's a fact.
Mm-hmm. It's true, it's been a while since we did well against Gor Mahia, but if you look at how the graph has been going, you'll notice that we are slowly starting to bridge that particular gap. First leg we lost by 4-1. In the second leg we lost by a solitary goal, and it was I would say unevenly contested match. There was a huge difference from or if you look at the first match and the second match that we played against them. I would say that there was a huge difference. We nearly got there, but of course, as they always say, almost doesn't count. But I think that was a big step in the right direction. I think it's a performance that made the boys believe in themselves a little bit more. They know that they can perform or compete at that particular level and do very, very well. But again, as you said, it didn't take away the pain that we all felt after losing that particular match. But you asked whether we are going to do well against Gor Mahia anytime soon. I believe that that time is coming, very, 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 very soon. We are getting there, and it's not just about doing well against Gor Mahia, it's doing well against all the top sides in the Kenyan Premier League, all the big about 4 or 5 sides that are very, very competitive, or that have got a very, very high caliber of players. I think that's the direction that we want to go, to ensure that we can do well against all the other title contenders. Because if you want to do well, if you want to win the league, then you must get
Sure.
points from some of the leading horses in that particular race. So that is where we are hoping to go, and I'm pretty sure we are going to get there.
Kuna mtu ananiambia nikuulize, what influence some of the coaches that you've worked under as a player have had in your career as a coach? Is there something maybe probably you pick from Kimanzi that you still apply in your coaching or any other coach, be it Salim Ali, or even the coaches that you had while growing up at Madare, you was at Maisa? What are some of those things that you've picked from those coaches, and who are these coaches that have influenced your coaching to date?
Well, I think Francis Kimanzi tops that particular list. I think he made me very, very strong mentally. I was his captain back then. And he always ensured that he made me know that the fact that I was the captain was not going to guarantee me, a spot in the team. I needed to work very, very hard to be able to, to play in his team. And I think that sort of helped me to grow mentally as well. He was also a father figure. He's a coach that always took his time to ensure that he gave us the right advice. He had been there. He had seen a lot of players who had passed where we were passing through, and he always made sure that we, knew what was expected of us on and off the pitch. So I'd say that he's one coach who not only molded me to be the person that I am today, but molded a lot of the other players that we, got to play together with at Madara United. Another coach also helped me is Salim Ali. Salim Ali, I think, taught me what humility is all about. Very, very good coach. He was always humble, always came down to your level to ensure that you, understood exactly what was expected of you. And so I would say that those two particular coaches came at the right moment in my footballing career, and the impact that they had, on me as a player is something that I've lived with for my entire, playing days and even my days as a coach.
Okay, we are approaching the end of this exciting show, but I have like 3 questions left. One would be, and I have to ask you this: what next for you as a coach after the FC Leopard venture? It's not like it's ending tomorrow. Now, I don't wish for it to end tomorrow, but probably you have something, you're planning. Are you thinking of venturing into coaching the national team in the near future, or what's the future like for your coaching career?
Well, I have a lot of dreams in my head. I have a lot of targets. I have a lot of objectives that I would want to achieve as a coach. There were one regret that I think I always have as a player is that I didn't get to win as many trophies as I think I should have. Looking back at my playing career, at times I look at my closet and look at the medals and trophies that I have and think I ought to have done better. So I think that's one thing that I hope to rectify as a coach. I would want to get my hands in as many, trophies as I can. And once I'm able to do that, I will again look at, another challenge and another opportunity. And if that, is coaching the national team, then so be it. But at the moment, I think I still have a lot of work to do. I still have a lot of learning to do as well, because I intend to continue, getting more and more coaching badges. So I would say that the road is still long, but you never know what's going to come in at any point. I'm always, up for challenges in life.
Well, you mentioned a lot about Jurgen Klopp, and I have to ask: Are you a Liverpool fan?
I'm not.
Which club do you support in the EPL?
I don't have a club that I support in the English Premier League. I used to support Real Madrid some time back, but I just don't have the energy to keep shouting while watching matches and stuff like that. So I enjoy watching football. I will watch any match that is available on telly. I tend to side with the underdogs, in any match that I happen to watch. But I can confidently say that I don't support any team at all in the English Premier League or in the leagues out there. Of course, locally it's AFC Leopards.
On the management side of the game, do you think probably in the near future we'll see you probably vying for any elective posts?
As I said, I've just started out my coaching career, and I still have a long way to go. I still have a lot of targets that I would like to hit. But I'm a man who always looks forward to new challenges, to crossing over to new territories. So if it ever gets to a point where I feel that I've achieved what I want to achieve in my coaching career, then I might decide to seek another challenge. And if that is football management, then so be it. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. At the moment, it's not something that I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you also mentioned about wanting to pursue more coaching badges. Mm-hmm. What are these badges that you really need to pursue? Do you want to do UEFA A or CAF A? Just take us through that.
CAF B, as I told you earlier on, I've already done CAF C, so I'd like to do CAF B. I'd like to do CAF A. I would like to do UEFA B as well. And at some point, of course, UEFA A and pro license. So I want to get to the very, very top of coaching credentials. But of course, you have to start somewhere. I have started somewhere, and slowly I hope to build on what I've got and to get better and better with time.
I will not ask you to name your best 11 because as a current coach that might bring problems with some players who think probably you don't rate them. But I have to ask, you've worked with some of the most exciting talent at AFC Leopards, even probably at Mathare. Who is that one or two players that you think really are the future of Kenyan football? We can even narrow it down at AFC Leopards because you've worked with some really exciting youngsters. Who are those 2 or 3 players that you think people should watch out for in the near future?
I think Austin.
Everyone mentions about Austin. What's so special about him?
He's one of the most creative players that we have at the moment. Creativity is something I think that we've lacked in our game for the longest time. We had Jamal Mohammed. When Jamal Mohammed, decided to hang his boots, we got Kahata, who's also doing very, very well. But in terms of future, in terms of the national team's future prospects, I would say that Austin really stands out for me. I think he's one player that is going to come in and give us what we've lacked in our national team for a very long time. Because creativity gives a team rhythm. It creates a lot of opportunity. It helps you to create a lot of goal scoring opportunities, and I think he's one guy who might be able to get there if if he keeps his eyes on the prize. If he remains focused, he's got the possibility or the potential to be one of the best creative players that we've ever had in our national team. Another player that I think is also going to do well for our country in the coming years is Masika. I think plays for Azito. I think he's a brother to. Sorry.
Brother to Ayub.
Ayub Timbe. Timbe. Yeah, he's another very, very talented youngster, and of course, if he gets good guidance, I think he might be able to also do very well for our senior national team.
Well, thank you for your time. It has been a very good interview, and I wish you well in your coaching career, in your business, in your family life, in everything. Stay safe. What would be your parting shots?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think it's always important to have these conversations. We need to have as many conversations as possible. There's somebody out there who has probably learned something from me. When you're hosting other people, I get to watch. I get to learn a lot of things from them. So congratulations for coming up with this initiative of ensuring that we can have these football conversations and get to learn a lot from each other. My parting shot would be to the current footballers to ensure that they make the most out of this time. As I said, one of the biggest regrets that I've got is that I didn't get to win as many trophies as I probably should have. So the football career, is quite short. You everybody tells you about it, you don't get to believe that that's the case. But the moment you face reality, the moment you come to terms with the fact that you've just played your last football match or you're never going to play again, that's when everything dawns on you. So besides playing, they should make sure that they try, and invest in other avenues, or try and diversify their investments. If you've got an opportunity to go back to school and learn a craft that will be able to sustain you once you are retired from football, then please do ahead. If you've got the ability to invest in a business that you might be able to engage in after your playing days are over, then so be it. And I think it's very, very important. Talking of business, it's very, very important for the players to understand that you need to have something called intellectual capital, because what a lot of people always look out for is the capital itself, the money. They'll tell you that I don't have money to start a business, but I think what you should try and do is, first of all, get the knowledge, get to know all the tiny little details that you need to know about a certain business before you even start thinking of the money money part of it. So the moment you get the knowledge, you're always ready, and once the money starts coming in, you will know what to put aside. And once you've saved enough and you get into that business, you'll be able to sustain that business, because the first phase or the first couple of months of any business are always challenging. But if you've equipped yourself with the required or the necessary knowledge, you'll be able to make it through.
Well, I've also learned a lot from yourself today, and I think that word intellectual capital is what I've really picked from this. It might have come towards the end of the show, but it's also a challenge on my end. I'm not as old as my beard suggests, so I also need to to learn and probably even start something small for myself. So for our viewers, I hope you've also enjoyed the interview and you've picked a lesson, one or two, from Modo Kimani. Kim, I wish you all the best. Say hey to the farm, and I'll get to see you soon.
So thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Okay, you have a good night.
And you too. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.